who lets me know my marriage is falling apart? My mom. We've signed up for this, and we're getting divorced at the end of the year.
Stop. Breaking news.
Don't say that.
When's the last time you got yelled at by a coach or player?
Mike Vrabel. It was actually it was a genuine yell. It was the year he was out, and I was at the Senior Bowl, and I had 2 back-to-back dinners with general managers. So it was like a double booked, but I had to make it work. And I had the same conversation with both these GMs, and they were asking me, why do I think that Mike Vrabel didn't have a job? Like, why isn't he a head coach right now? And I said, I don't know. I was like, I covered him a lot in Tennessee. I thought he was collaborative. He's a good leader. Players love him. I don't know. And they both offered up that they thought that he was too physically intimidating. So the New York Post sees this, or excuse me, I go on a podcast. The New York Post hears it. And it went from an intimidating figure that is perhaps scaring owners to like Mike Vrabel's too fat to get a job. So he called.
This scandal has completely rocked the NFL world in 2026. New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel, a 3-time Super Bowl champion and future Hall of Famer, who just pulled off one of the greatest coaching turnarounds in league history, got caught on camera holding hands with NFL reporter Dianna Russini at an Arizona resort. Both of them married, both of them parents, and both scrambling to explain how photos from 3 separate occasions over 6 years somehow don't mean what everybody thinks they mean. I'm going to walk you through this entire mess from the beginning, because it's so much worse than the headlines suggest. Let's start with who these 2 people are. Mike Vrabel is NFL royalty. The guy won 3 Super Bowl rings as a player with the Patriots, earned induction into the Patriots Hall of Fame in 2023, and after getting fired by the Tennessee Titans in January 2024, he landed the keys to the New England Patriots in January 2025. What did he do with that opportunity? He took a team that went 4-13 the year before and led them to a 14-3 record. That's a 10-game turnaround, which ties the biggest single-season improvement in NFL history. He won Coach of the Year, took that team all the way to Super Bowl LX. The man was on top of the football world. Dianna Russini had built herself into one of the most respected NFL reporters in the business. 15 years in sports journalism, anchor on SportsCenter, NFL insider at ESPN for nearly a decade, then jumped to The Athletic in 2023. Before all that, she was an all-state athlete in 4 sports in high school and played soccer at George Mason University. This woman had earned her seat at the table through years of grinding. Now here's where things start to unravel. On April 7th, 2026, Page 6 drops a bomb. Photos surface of Vrabel and Russini at a resort in Sedona, Arizona, holding hands and hugging. These shots were taken on March 28th, just one day before the NFL's annual league meeting kicked off in nearby Phoenix. Immediately, both of them jump into damage control mode. Vrabel tells Page 6 the photos show a completely innocent interaction and any suggestion otherwise is laughable. Russini backs this up, saying there were actually 6 people hanging out that day, and the photos just don't show the full picture. Here's the problem, though. The New York Post talked to 3 eyewitnesses at the resort, and every single one said they didn't see anyone else with Vrabel and Russini. 3 people all saying the same thing. So either there were 4 invisible friends or somebody's lying. But it gets worse because Sedona wasn't the first time. After the initial photos dropped, more receipts started surfacing. On January 30th, 2024, just weeks after Vrabel got fired by the Titans, he and Russini were photographed together at the Beau Rivage Casino in Biloxi, Mississippi. Okay, maybe that's a coincidence. Reporters talk to coaches, sources meet in all kinds of places, right? Then came the kill shot. On April 23th, the Post released another photo from 2020, showing Vrabel and Russini appearing to kiss at a New York City bar. 2020, that's 6 years of photographic evidence. That's not a one-time thing, that's a pattern. And this is where everything changes. Because after that 2020 photo came out, Vrabel's entire tone shifted. Gone was the guy calling it laughable. At a press conference on April 21st, he said he'd had some difficult conversations with people that I care about. By April 23rd, the night the draft kicked off in Pittsburgh, he stood in front of reporters and dropped a statement nobody expected from a guy built like a linebacker who eats nails for breakfast. He said he was seeking counseling, announced he would miss day 3 of the NFL draft to begin that process. He said, "I have always wanted to lead by example, and I believe this is what I have to do to be the best husband, father, and coach that I possibly can be. This is not an easy thing for me to admit, but it is one that I know will make me a better person." Now, credit where it's due, that's accountability. Late accountability, but accountability nonetheless. The Patriots organization backed him up, releasing a statement saying they fully support his decision to prioritize his family and well-being. But Dianna Russini? Her career didn't survive this. The Athletic began investigating her on April 13th. By April 14th, she resigned. In her resignation letter, she wrote that she was stepping aside not because she accepts the narrative that's been constructed, but because she refuses to let it define her or her career. Her contract wasn't even up until June 30th. She walked away early. She deleted her entire Twitter account, which had a massive following and has gone completely silent. Here's what makes this even messier from a journalism perspective. The Athletic and the New York Times both have editorial guidelines that require journalists to avoid activities that could pose a conflict of interest or even the appearance of one. Steven Ginsberg, the executive editor at The Athletic, initially put out a statement defending Russini, calling the photos misleading and saying they lacked essential context. That statement reportedly caused internal chaos. Staffers at both The Athletic and The Times were furious. One source called Ginsberg's response reckless, another called it premature. The Athletic is still reviewing Russini's work even after her resignation. Now let's talk about the families, because there are real people caught in the wreckage here. Mike Vrabel has been married to his wife Jen since 1999, 27 years. They celebrated their silver anniversary in Italy in 2024, a trip Vrabel told the New York Times was his first true vacation maybe ever. They have two sons, Tyler, who's now an offensive line consultant at Boston College, and Carter. Jen Vrabel has maintained absolute silence throughout this entire scandal. Dianna Russini married Kevin Goldschmidt in September 2020. They have two sons, Michael born in 2021 and Joey born in 2022. And yes, the internet noticed that she named her son Michael, which is also Mike Vrabel's full first name. Coincidence? Probably, but social media went absolutely feral over it. Kevin Goldschmidt, who's a VP at Shake Shack, has notably stayed public on LinkedIn while everything burns around him. Here's a detail that'll make you wince. Back in February 2026, just weeks before the Sedona photos were taken, Russini went on the Stugotz and Company podcast and joked that her marriage was falling apart because of her busy schedule. She said she and Kevin would probably get divorced at the end of the year, and that he doesn't even know who I am right now. We've never been more disconnected in our lives. She was laughing when she said it. Nobody's laughing now. This isn't even the first time Russini has faced these kinds of accusations. Back in 2015, when she was covering the Washington football team for ESPN, the wife of then general manager Scott McLaughlin publicly accused Russini of having an affair with her husband on Twitter. That accusation was later retracted with a full apology, calling it unfounded and inappropriate. So Russini survived that one, but she didn't survive this. As of right now, the NFL has said it isn't investigating Vrabel. His job appears to be safe. The Patriots have their 11 draft picks, including number 31 overall, and they're moving forward. Vrabel says whatever his family needs, that's what he's going to provide. But he wouldn't say whether he'd miss additional team activities. Rookie minicamp is scheduled for May 8th, so here's where we're left. A coach who just had the greatest single-season turnaround in NFL history now has his personal life in shambles. A reporter who spent 15 years building a career just watched it evaporate in a week. 2 marriages hanging by a thread, kids caught in the middle, and a trail of photos stretching back 6 years that tells a story neither of them wanted told. The football was legendary. Everything else? An absolute disaster.